Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Very Connected podcast. And today we're being joined by the BariNation founders, and we have April Williams here with us and Natalie Tierney. We had scheduled Jason Smith, but he unfortunately had some other work things that came up. So he won't be here, but he'll be here in spirit. And hey, we love BariNation, and they're here joining us today to talk about some exciting things that they have going on. In addition, we're going to talk about 1 year post up now what? Post up now what? So, you know, we all are on, regardless of where you are on your bariatric journey, even if you're pre-op, this conversation is for you as well because sometimes we kind of get in our head and we think, what's going to happen? Like, where's my journey going to be leading? And sometimes knowing some of the factors that do happen further on out can be helpful and beneficial. So I'm going to put myself on mute and let these two wonderful ladies do a more formal introduction of themselves and about BariNation in general.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you, ProCare, for hosting these amazing events so often. My name is April Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of BariNation. I had vertical sleeve gastrectomy in July of 2019. And actually, this summer will be my 5-year post-op journey. Jason, Natalie, and I created BariNation really out of a need. COVID shut the world down. We were all feeling isolated and alone, and we didn't know where to turn for the resources and the education and the community that we know we needed to tap into if we were going to be successful along this bariatric journey. And I would not be as successful, I wouldn't be as far along in my journey as I am today if it were not for BariNation. And our organization is really on a mission to ensure that every patient, no matter where you're at, can really connect with experts and other patients in real time. So no matter where you are in this journey, we have support for you in BariNation.
I'm Natalie. I am also a co-founder and chief administrator of BariNation, and much like what April said, this journey brought us all together. I had a revision to VSG September of 2020. Prior to that, I had the lap band in 2009, and then I had what's called a placation. After that, I experienced some complications. And then VSG really changed my life. It's how I met April and Jason, and it's how BariNation began. And I'm very passionate, much like April, Jason, Brenda, everyone here, to connect each other through bariatrics and support each other. It's truly what I always wanted as someone who was a young person with bariatric surgery. I didn't have that. 2009, I mean, Instagram didn't even exist yet. So it's a part of my lifelong passion to make a space and give space to those who need it in the bariatric realm.
Thanks, ladies, for sharing. And tell us even more about BariNation. Tell us a little bit more about that.
BariNation is really grounded in meaningful support for patients. We are a bariatric educational organization. Natalie and I both come from an educational background. We understand that it's so important for us as patients to really understand the why behind all of the things that we're asked to do or all of the things that we know we need to do. But we also know as educators that knowing the why isn't enough. You have to understand the why behind it, and you have to have the safe place to practice all of these things that we're trying to implement in our bariatric journey. If we don't have that safe place to kind of play and practice and really understand how these things will work in our lives, we're just not going to be successful. So we built BariNation out of need, out of necessity, and out of love for the bariatric community. We wanted a safe place for patients to go, to not be bullied or shamed, to not have to worry about trolls. We know that so many people choose to not share their bariatric journey outside of their close social circle or even their family. So we needed our community, we needed our podcast to be accessible for people that really were embarking on this journey kind of alone. Obesity is a very isolating disease. And we have learned that we can fight back that isolation with and through community. So we have a private membership community where all of our members can access weekly virtual supports. So our support groups are only led by bariatric therapists and mental health professionals, and they're never recorded. Our classes are taught by licensed and credentialed experts like Brenda, so registered dietitians. We even have bariatric surgeons that lead classes in BariNation. We have certified movement experts and wellness coaches. We have over 20 experts that lead every single week in BariNation. And then we offer meetups because we know how important it is to just connect with other patients, talk about your experience, and ask your questions. So our community is 100% virtual. It's done on Zoom. We have a robust community calendar that you as a member get to pick from. So every day or every week, you log into BariNation, you start your day by reading some inspirational messages, you pick an event that maybe you'd like to attend, you go, you connect with others, and we're there to really support you each and every day along your journey, no matter where you are. So that's the community side of things. Our other biggest platform is the BariNation podcast, and we're so proud of that. It has been going for 3 years now, I think. Now we just published our 200th. I think we're at episode 202 or 203.
4 years.
Oh my God, 4 years. The time
Had
has.
our 200th episode.
And the podcast is absolutely amazing. It is very conversational in nature. It's very much like this. We have the honor of welcoming experts to the podcast often. We gather questions from our community and from our Patreon supporters. We ask them on the podcast, but it's all very much targeted for what is truly meaningful for bariatric patients. What Natalie, Jason, and I often talk about is when we first started BariNation, back in the day, it was called East to West, WLS. There was no patient voice podcast at that time. Just didn't exist. OSLP and us, we started kind of at the same time. And the reason that we really started it is because there were podcasts out there and they were led by experts, which is wonderful. But those experts weren't battling the disease of obesity, they were treating it. And we knew how critically important it was that our patient voice became a part of that tapestry of support that was out there, because we would hear things or we would see them say things and we would say, wait a minute, that's not right. So we really wanted to be able to put forward the patient voice as equally important in the treatment of obesity as the expert voice. So in BariNation, we always say we are experts in our own lived patient experience, and we deserve a platform to be able to talk about how the disease of obesity has impacted our lives and continues to impact our lives. But we also know we can't do it all because we're not the experts.
And it kind of comes down to, actually, last week, April was at ASMBS, which is was it last week or week before?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, and presented a paper with Dr. Eric Smith. And I know we're getting into I know we need to get into our topic, but I want to just have you just touch briefly on that, because it does kind of talk a little bit more about what you're saying. And in the meantime, I'm going to post a link, because ProCare, who is our sponsor, is a
huge supporter of
program.
BariNation.
We're a huge supporter, and I'm going to post a link, because we do have a partnership, and we'll talk more about that later, but I'll post the link for that while you're talking.
Yep. And this is actually a really great segue into what we want to talk about today. So at this year's ASMBS, we had the privilege of co-presenting an e-poster with Dr. Eric Smith. And our topic was how practitioners can help their patients lift shame and stigma along their bariatric journey. All of the research says that shame, stigma, and bias prevents patients from onboarding their initial treatment. So it really stops people from going through with bariatric surgery. But what the new research is showing is that this shame and stigma and bias that patients can feel coming from their providers prevents us from continuing to access follow-up care. So when we're talking about like 1 year post-op, now what? It's really important to understand that just because we've had surgery, and if you have had surgery, you know this, it doesn't magically remove the shame and the stigma that you maybe have been feeling about your excess weight. it doesn't automatically switch your mindset so that you know wholeheartedly that you're battling a disease, right? And that this was not a decision for you. Those things don't go away. And when you get to kind of that 1 year post-op moment in your journey, it can be monumental for a lot of different reasons. And what we really want to share with you today is that Brenda, Natalie, myself, we have all gone through the bariatric journey, and we have a very unique recipe. And we have spent a lot of time learning other people's recipes and taking ingredients from them so we can incorporate it into our own recipe. But that means that we are constantly keeping our eyes and our ears and our hearts and our mind open to what other people are saying. And we are always tweaking it. And Nat really has this wonderful story that she's going to share, right? We feel like bariatric surgery is this big pendulum. So let's say we start over here, and this is, I'm never going to have surgery, not for me. And then we make this huge swing. Oh my gosh, I'm actually going to do this. Cool. And then it swings back again, and we have surgery. And for the first year, we are so close to our bariatric journey, right? I mean, it's like this. And you know, when something is so close to you, you can't see anything around it. We are hyper focused on that bariatric journey because we want to do everything right. We are rule followers. We don't want to mess this up. We've been given this, second chance on life. So it's right here. But as we move out from surgery, we get a little more distance from it. And all of a sudden, the rest of our life reappears. And that's where we can have this huge pendulum swing back to maybe thoughts, behaviors, and mindsets that we had before surgery. And we feel so good that it can almost turn a little bit reckless in the decisions that we make. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, because you can't separate fun and discovery and finally having the energy and the ability to go do all these amazing things that we always wanted to do. But if that pendulum swings really far in the other direction, it can be detrimental to our journey. Did I miss anything, Nat?
No.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but it's awesome. I think maybe a really great place for us to start. If you guys are joining us live, we'd love to know in the chat, where are you in your bariatric journey? So we'd love to kind of take a real quick poll. So if you're watching this live, will you include that in the chat? And Brenda, if you can take a little poll on Facebook, we'd love to know that.
Absolutely.
But awesome. So, and what Brenda said in the beginning is so important. Even if you're just thinking about having bariatric surgery and you're here today, or even if you are 5 years post-op, right? That pendulum swing is going to happen really no matter what. So I think a really great place for us to start would just be to kind of explain to you what happened in our lived patient lives in years 1 and 2. And now I know you have a fantastic kind of story to share.
Yeah. So I remember that first year, exactly like what you said, April. My bariatric journey life was right in front of me. It's all I could think about. I ate, slept, breathed bariatrics. I had to have hard conversations with a lot of friends because they would say like, well, you just talk about your surgery. And I'm like, well, I don't know what else to talk about. Like this is such a huge part of my life. And then I hit that 1 year mark and I thought, well, I've lost over 100 pounds. I feel really good. My mood is boosted. My energy is boosted. It's time to freaking party. That's what went off in my brain was like, I feel so good. The best I have felt ever in my life. And my pendulum swung very far in the opposite direction. I consumed foods that were slider foods. I know we hear that term all the time, chips, popcorn, things that I could get down easily. I went back to consuming alcohol in quantities that I really had never consumed before, I feel like even pre-op. And my activity was changing. I mean, just everything in my life was like almost like it blew up a little bit. And I think I allowed myself to go on that path for probably 6 months before speaking with April and Jason, and saying like, I don't feel very good. And I thought I was supposed to feel great, like some days I would feel great. And then your body just starts to not feel good. And that was when, 18 months to year 2, when I kind of realized, oh, I have to change my perspective on life after bariatric surgery. I mean, I think April and Brenda can both speak to this of like, you get to a point of having to really reevaluate your intentions and your goals for having the surgery in the first place, and reevaluating what you want your life to look like or be in the future. And so for me, it was, between that 18-month to 2-year time period, it was a lot of reevaluation, a lot of thinking about what I want the rest of my life to look like. And spoiler, it doesn't look like partying all the time and eating whatever I want. And, I just still do those things sometimes, but it's not like it was, between 1 year and 18 months.
Yeah. And it's normal to, we really want to normalize this pendulum swing, right?
Mhm.
Because we understand just how much emotion and thought and energy goes into making the decision to have surgery and then having surgery. And within that first year, right, when it's usually kind of dubbed the honeymoon, it's okay that sometimes this does feel a little bit easy, right? Maybe your hunger has completely gone away or is dissipated. That head hunger is gone. You are compelled, you're feeling great about eating foods. You are losing weight. You are looking different. You can physically do more things. People are noticing, right? It is like a year, it can be a year of euphoria because you
Mhm.
finally have onboarded, right? The thing that you have been waiting for. So it's very normal to be beyond excited, right? And to get out there and live life. Where we can run into issues, though, is when that pendulum really swings all the way to the other side and we return to the eating habits, the mindsets, the thoughts, some of the actions, the behaviors that we did before surgery, and we try to live that way in our new bariatric body. They oftentimes don't mesh. You really do have to become almost a completely different person after your bariatric surgery, because the person who you were and how you lived before surgery is not the person you are now, and you can't live that way in a lot of ways. And that realization, that pendulum swing, you guys, also comes with grief. This is something that we don't talk about very often. We talk about it all the time in BariNation. In fact, we have a support group almost every week on the topic of bariatric grief, because we really do lose pieces of ourselves as we're gaining access to new parts of us. And that's grief. There are waves of grief that we move through. And some of the behaviors and the actions and the mindsets that we might turn to in this first year post-op are related to grief. We are grieving these things that we've lost at the same time that we're celebrating all of these new things that we're able to do. So
Yeah.
it's not like that big swing isn't normal or isn't, out of the ordinary. It absolutely is, because we absolutely have the right to celebrate treating the disease and getting to this point of metabolic wellness. What our goal and what we hope you leave here today with is understanding that celebration, that joy, that exploration of truly what your life can be now can happen, and you can still balance all of those bariatric basics, right? Those very good day things that we need to do every day as a patient. We're really looking for a way in our first and second year post-op. I mean, I'm 5 years and I'm still trying to figure it out, to marry the two, marry the fun, the new, the excitement, and all of the good things that my life holds now with the bariatric things that I have to do. It really does have to be this union of the two. And that's what kind of stops the pendulum from swinging like this. When we bring those two elements together, we can just kind of stay more closely in the middle and experience the joys of both being in compliance, bariatric compliance, living a balanced bariatric life, and exploring our new life to the fullest.
I just want to add to that because I see, excuse me, I see Helena's comment about also not knowing where macros should be. This is also a huge time, and I know we'll get into this, but that was a period of time too where I realized, or you tend to realize, oh, I'm not just going to eat this much in a tiny ramekin for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I think that was the other part for me of like, well, what do I eat? Because I think a lot of you guys can relate. You get this eating plan up until 3 months post-op or whatever, and then it's just like, okay, bye, deuces, you're on your own. And I had to have a lot of really like eye-opening conversations. Like April mentioned earlier, the BariNation podcast, we've had nutritionists come on, and I would say like, well, but I'm eating like protein and cheese and like peanut butter. And they're like, well, yeah, but how many calories are in cheese and peanut butter and protein? Have you added in carbs? Have you added in, and so having these conversations with professional nutritionists, that's what you have to start doing as well during this time. And we don't get taught that. We just think, oh, we can just go about our lives after that 1 year mark. And that's just not the case. And so I just wanted to point that out, like, seek out that information, whether it's a 1-day consult with a nutritionist or something that can fit your budget. But that really opened my eyes. And when I heard that, oh, I need to eat protein, fats, and carbs, it was like light bulbs just went off in my brain.
Yep. We jokingly say in BariNation, and I say jokingly because we mean it, but we're trying to inject some like fun, and this will be okay. We created a completely new stage for our community and for our podcast listeners. So when we went into surgery, it was like your pre-op, and then your newly post-op, and there's the honeymoon, and then there's life and maintenance. Well, all three of us got to the end of the honeymoon, and we literally were looking around at each other going, so I missed something, because I just didn't go from everything's great to, oh, now I'm just going to be life and maintenance. All three, Jason, Natalie, and I went through this elongated period. I think mine was about a year, where I just did not want a bariatric anymore. I was so over it. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to mess with it. I was tired of being a patient. I was tired of doing all the things, right, that I needed to do. I was angry. My hunger had returned. I was eating more. I was worried I was messing it up. And I was like, I ain't doing this. I am so done. I don't want a bariatric anymore. But when I really sat with that question, I said, okay, so what are my choices? Well, I can stop being a bariatric patient and I can go back to living life the way I lived it before. Okay, I know that life. It was comfortable. I didn't have to worry about any of this other stuff. I didn't think about it. But I also was pre-diabetic. I had life-altering sleep apnea. I was on a road to a very shortened lifespan. So while I knew what that old life was like, it was not worth the cost anymore. And I realized that as I kind of started to live my new life as a bariatric patient, as I did in my old ways, I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't comfortable eating those things, thinking those things, I was like, oh God, that's actually not what I want. But I wasn't yet comfortable in my new bariatric life. So no matter where I looked in my life, I couldn't find comfort. My husband didn't understand. I was growing a bariatric community and some friends. So I had this little pocket that I could go to that they would get it, but my friends didn't, right? I mean, it was just like, nothing is comfortable and I'm so flippin' angry. And that is the stage that we call in BariNation the commitment. It is where we have to commit to either living the rest of our life as a bariatric patient, or we commit to living our lives maybe the way that we used to live it before. But you cannot live in both worlds. It doesn't work. You will literally tear yourself in two. So you need to pick a path, and that needs to be your path forward. And as we always say in BariNation, we support whatever path you choose. It's your life. You pick the path, right? There is not a bad decision here. We're battling a lifelong and chronic disease. So that's sitting under, all of this. If you pick the path that you are returning to a life that and that's okay. But if you pick that bariatric life, you are committing to a life path that you don't know what the future looks like. You are literally walking down a path in the woods that has never been walked before. And that's scary. But what we're here to tell you is that if you choose that bariatric life, you are choosing to be filled with hope and joy and possibility for a life that looks radically different from the one that you know. And we all went into bariatric surgery deep down knowing that there was more for us in our life. So for me and for Jason and for Natalie, and it took us different time frames to make the decision to commit to our bariatric life. But once we did that, it opened up this new realm of possibility for us, because I knew I wasn't going back there anymore. So now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, I really do have to learn how to eat, not only as a bariatric patient, but in a way that works for my metabolism and for me. So I need to work with experts. I need to go to nutritional chats with Kayla and Jeannie and BariNation. I need to ask these questions. I need to play around and experiment with food. Movement, that has to be a part of my life. I got to figure that out. My mindset, I have to become aware of all of these things that I'm telling myself that are holding me back. And you learn to practice those things. You learn to identify those things in support groups, in community. So that's why community is actually one of our pillars of bariatric success. We have movement, mindset, metabolic wellness, and community. Because without community, you're practicing these three things in isolation. And you're just not going to get as far as you could if you did those three things with community. Because when we share our stories, when we talk about what we're struggling with, when we open ourselves up to the love and support of people who get it, in return, we really get the answers that we're seeking. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's not you go to one support group and you learn it all and then you're done. Natalie and I, well, we always talk about this forever. Our bariatric life is showing up for ourselves and our community each and every day for the rest of our life. That's what we've committed to.
Yeah, it's a time to experiment. Once you hit that 1 year mark, that first year, we've said it several times already, your bariatric life is your life. That is the number one most important thing. And then you get farther away from it and your regular day-to-day life seeps in. And that's when we have to experiment, like truly experiment what's going to work for us. And day 376 is going to be different than day 377. And we just have to be excited and ready to experiment and try things on and try new foods. You might not, we pick on Jason all the time. He didn't like, it wasn't tofu. He still hasn't tried tofu, but there was something where he was like, I haven't tried this yet. And he tried,
Quinoa.
Quinoa. Oh my gosh.
Quinoa.
He was like, I will never try quinoa. I hate it. That's bird food, like for years. And we were finally just like, well, try it. Like maybe just see if you like it. And he went probably 18 months just eating eggs and quinoa for breakfast. Like he loved it and it helped him reach the point that he is today. And but it came from community. It came from reaching out and saying, I kind of want to try this, but I'm also kind of scared too. And having people like April, Jason, myself, Brenda, those of you who are watching today, it's having the feedback to say, well, like, what's the worst that could happen?
Right? We can't be afraid or scared of what could happen. We have to just know what the possibilities are and then make a game plan for whatever lives ahead. Because for many of us, regained weight reoccurrence, it's actually just a part of the disease progression. right? Like we had a wonderful interview with Dr. Robert Kushner on weight reoccurrence or regain. And in that interview, he was like, most patients are going to experience it because it's the progression of the disease. In our interview with Dr. Chen and Dr. Joe, they very clearly said, as a bariatric patient, you could be doing everything right, hitting all the macros, water, vitamins, like that list, everything. And you could still experience weight reoccurrence because it's the disease progressing, and it just means more treatment is needed. That's all that it means. And at really 1 year post-op, I think you kind of start to understand what you've been hearing from everybody. Obesity is a disease. This is going to change. It's lifelong and chronic. As your life progresses, you're going to have to change with it. Because what works for you 1 week post-op, 1 month, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months post-op is not necessarily going to work at 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. Your life continues. Other things are going to happen in your life that is going to mean the disease is constantly changing. So it's okay that what once worked doesn't work anymore. It just means that now I need to mix things up and I need to find what's going to work for this next chunk of my bariatric life. And then when that stops working, then I move on to the next thing. It's not you're doing something wrong. It's the disease is progressing. And if you're committing to your bariatric life, you are committing to fighting the disease for the rest of your life. And if you don't know where to turn, if you don't know where to find the information that you're looking for, or you're worried that you're not going to be prepared for something out there, that's where the role of community comes into play. That's where places like BariNation come into play. It's a place that you can go and say, I'm really struggling with this, and I'm 1 year post-op. And you have an entire community to go, it could be this, this, and this. Have you considered this, this, and this? Have you thought about this?
And it's a time to revisit things. I mean, this just in a group I was in last week was like, I spent a year trying new things, trying to figure things out. And someone said, well, what about those protein pasta salads you used to make? And I was like, oh,
duh. Yeah.
Why did I stop doing that? Or why did I forget about that? And I went back to it, and what do you know? It helped me. And so it is a time of like trying new things and seeking out new ways of going about things. And when you get to like the 2, 3, 4, 5 year and beyond marks, it's also a time to revisit what worked for me when I was feeling really good. Maybe I'll try that again this week and see if that's working. I mean, I think what April and I are trying to portray is like, you really have to be willing and excited to be a scientist. You have to have the ability and the excitement to try different things, try old things that worked before, and figure it out. I mean, it's every day. I'm 3.5 years, you're coming up on 5, and we still have these conversations.
Yep.
So true. Yep. Girls, is it okay? There's like a lot of comments, kind of questions that kind of go right along with what you're saying. And so I'd like to address some of these. I went back through the comments and made some lists. So there's some from Facebook and some from here. So one of the questions I think is interesting that we talked about right before the call, right before we went live, is keeping the hype going. And so like talk briefly about that, because I was telling them, I'm like, we were actually talking about what they're doing within BariNation, and I was talking about what I'm doing within Bari Connected, and we were also talking about our personal lives. And sometimes, you guys, that honeymoon phase, with this bariatric surgery, it will wear off, just like it does with your job, with your personal life, maybe with workouts, with nutrition. It wears off. And then how do you keep going? So what do you say on that? And let's make our answers kind of short, because there's so many questions that are coming in. So I want to try to keep it.
We have a hard time doing that, but we
I
can.
know.
Yep, go for it, Nan.
We do have a hard time with that. We just talked about this last night. We host Struggle Bus live events twice a month on Instagram, twice a month in the BariNation community. And motivation came up. And my answer is, well, I think the general answer is motivation is fleeting. It's never going to be consistent. Um, what helps me to keep going is tapping into that energy that I had pre-surgery. I had surgery in Mexico, which is a little bit different than having it in the States. So I personally had to lose 50 pounds before I even had my surgery. I did it. And I think back to, that feeling of like, I'm just going to do it no matter what. Um, and that's what keeps me going, is tapping into that energy of like, screw motivation, I'm just going to do it.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. Motivation is not, I mean, it's a real thing, but we can't rely on it. So you have to commit to elements along your bariatric journey, and you do them no matter what. You do them tired, mad, scared, upset, frustrated. You just do it, no matter what.
My mantra has
And
been just show up. Like if you show up,
yeah,
like let's say, for example, exercise. Like more than half of it is just actually getting to the place, like for
yeah,
fitness, like getting to the gym. Or if it's something with your job, making your list and then just doing it. Like just show up. And that's
yeah.
just like with school, with anything, like just do it. Um, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next one. So some people are there's a comment about, staying on the nutrition piece uh, for lifelong, and there's a lot of people that have been trying the GLP-1s. So what happens when you have to jump off of a GLP-1 and you're going back to, you know, your
I
normal
can,
without those?
yeah, I can actually directly speak to this. So I've been on a GLP-1 for it'll be 2 years in October, and I have lost access 2 times now, and I am beyond frustrated. But what I learned, and I can see somebody was talking about that food noise. I believe that I have 3 types of hunger that I deal with every single day. I have physical hunger, so actual physical hunger. I'm listening to my body's cues. I have emotional or head hunger. And then I have what I call obesity hunger. My disease of obesity means I have a constant gnawing hunger that exists in my life almost 24/7, no matter what I do. And I've had it forever, for as long as I can remember. I was born with it. It's part of my disease. So for me, it's not what can I do to prevent it from coming back? There's nothing I can do outside of medication. I have to accept that constant hunger is a part of my disease. But once I got there, I shifted gears and it was like, okay, how can I better listen to my physical hunger and fuel my body for what it needs? So that means I'm spending time learning about metabolism, what my body's metabolism is, what food really fuels me for how I need to live. So going to nutritional chats, working with a nutritionist, right? All that kind of stuff. And for that emotional hunger, it's asking the same question. Am I physically hungry right now? Or is this emotional hunger? Am I actually needing comfort or love, or am I stressed, right? I've done the head work with people in the BariNation community, the emotional eating support groups, to be able to really differentiate between the two. But if I ask myself the questions, okay, is this physical hunger? When was the last time I ate, right? What have I eaten so far today? Is this emotional? And the answer to both of those questions is no. Then the hunger that I'm experiencing is my obesity hunger. And there isn't a single thing on the planet that I can do for it except learn to acknowledge it, live with it, and move on. And I know that's not the answer that I think we're hoping to hear, but it's the truest answer that I have learned as a bariatric patient on a GLP-1 that has lost access multiple times.
Mm-hmm. So that actually kind of keys into two other things that people have said. One thing, asking for support, number one, like asking for support to a nutritionist or to somebody who can help you if you're not sure where you're going. And also maybe even a therapist. There were several comments regarding counselors and therapists being super helpful in that 1 year post-op journey. So I just want to kind of bring attention to that. Also, there's a comment about intuitive eating, and is that a great way to go? And I think this is more subjective, but I will say intuitive eating patterns that are out there are more like listening to your body. What does your body need? And while I am 100% in agreement to that, I think that that's not a bad way to go. This is an opinion. I mean, obviously, this is opinion, but I also think the things that April just said, if you're scared, because her question is it better to continue to limit items that previously led to overeating? And my thinking would be, is if you are listening to your body in those ways that April mentioned, those can be helpful cues if you're following an intuitive eating plan. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot to add to it, and I'll try to be concise. I think the first thing is that intuitive eating is possible after bariatric surgery. It's a lot of work, just like anything. We have talked with Laura Grabo on our podcast several times, but there's one in particular about emotional eating. And we really came to the conclusion that there's kind of like 3 tiers of decision making when it comes to these foods that maybe we have a hard relationship, a tough relationship with. So you can eat it, right? Like you can say like, this feels safe. I feel like I am in the right headspace. This doesn't trigger me to eat too much anymore. I feel good. So I'm just going to enjoy this food. The second one is like, well, I still really want this food. So I'm going to try and find like a bariatric replacement. So like if you want pudding or ice cream, making like a protein pudding or a protein ice cream. And if you feel like that's going to satisfy you, like do that. And the third one is to be abstinent, which is okay and it's fine. If you are just not in the headspace, mine was pasta for about a year to 18 months post-op. I didn't eat any pasta. I didn't eat Bonza pasta. I didn't eat any of the substitutes. I just said, I can't do that because before surgery, I would eat just a bowl, a pan. I would eat it out of the pot of mac and cheese or pasta or whatever. So that was a food that I had to abstain from until I felt like I could be in the same room as pasta and not overeat it. So those are kind of the 3 tiers, I guess that we would call it, of that decision making. I also want to point out we had Connie Stapleton on the podcast, and we also talked about food abstinence, and it's a wonderful resource. I know I just felt like I was so validated in that podcast. She really made a point of removing the shame of abstaining from foods. So if there are foods that you are like, man, I just can't be in the same room, I will suck it down so fast and it's a slider food and I'm just going to eat it all the time. That's fine. Just don't eat it. Just don't buy it. Just to say, I cannot be around this food right now. So those are 2, I guess, podcasts that I would recommend folks to listen to. But just know that like intuitive eating is possible with the help of, in my opinion, that abstinence piece.
We say it all the time. This journey is about learning to trust ourselves, right? Knowing what foods we can safely enjoy and trust that, and knowing what foods we're not yet able to safely enjoy and trust that as well, and just avoid them.
Mm-hmm. Do we have time for 1, 2, 3 more questions, or do you guys have a lot more? Okay. Okay, so how about when you hit a plateau and that intentionality that you talked about, it starts causing fatigue, and you just feel like that's all you can think about, and it's hard to kind of move forward.
One of the best things somebody told me, I don't know where this came from, but I was also struggling with a plateau or with a stall. this person told me, sometimes walls are put in our path for us to lean on. And I went, oh my gosh. Right? If you're on a road trip and you're driving your car 100 miles an hour for 400, 500 miles, that car is going to run out of gas and it is going to just stop working. So if we think of our bariatric journey as a true journey, as a road trip, we have to stop along the way to refuel. We have to stop along the way to take a rest and a break. And our body is doing the same thing as well. You've just undergone major surgery. You're going through extreme weight loss, right? Everything physiologically is changing in you. So it makes a lot of sense that your body needs some rest. It doesn't mean, though, that you necessarily have to stop doing everything. It means you continue to do the things that you have been doing while you are resting. So instead of adding on something more, you're just going to take a rest. You're going to keep doing what you're doing, but you're going to focus on just maintaining where you're at there for a while and enjoy the rest. When you are ready to re-engage, you will feel that little spark of motivation. That can be the thing that gets you going again. But if you are realizing that you feel like you're resting for too long, if your plateau has lasted for months, if your stall has lasted for months, and you are ready to get going again, right? But your car, your body is giving you some grief, then it's time to make some tweaks and adjustments. Maybe it's time to add in movement or a different type of movement, or switch that up completely. Maybe it's time to increase calories or decrease calories, or try playing around with your macros. Maybe it's time to dive into something maybe emotional that you have been putting off or avoiding. It's certainly time to lean into community. It's time to onboard professional help. It's time to reconnect with your bariatric surgeon, with your primary care team, right? And share with them where your frustration lies. Because the other thing to keep in mind too, your body continues to age and change, and the disease continues to progress as well. So something might have occurred internally with you and you're just not aware of it yet. So there could be all kinds of factors that are leading into that stall or that plateau that you're experiencing. But also know, a stall is the point, to quote Dr. Eric Smith on one of our podcast episodes. We want to get to a stable weight and we want to maintain that. So depending on where you are in your journey, right? If you're plateauing at year 3, 4, 5, that might be the weight that your body wants to be at. If you're plateauing at month 3, month 6, even year 1, it could be time to mix some things up. Like what Natalie talked about earlier, it's all about experimentation.
So that was great advice. There is a question that just kind of came up within this chat that said, the ones, Natalie, that you mentioned, the 2 podcasts. So it looks like Natalie's already on it. She's putting the links for those. Okay. And I'm going to copy those to put them in my notes so that we can add them to the description if you're listening to the replay, that patients will have those as well. How about one of the questions here is preparing for surgery. Is there anything that you would advise for those people that are going towards that, and you're going to be hitting the year mark? So kind of working in reverse.
I would say, truly trust the process. I think I thought that I was going to be very regimented, and we all have that kind of perfection ideal in our brains. And I think I felt when I wasn't hitting exactly everything, I think that's when a lot of that kind of recklessness kind of spiraled, because I just thought, well, I'm gonna feel really good anyway, no matter what. So I would just say trust the process and give yourself, we say it a lot in BariNation, space and grace. Space from kind of the reality, take a step back and really look at things objectively, but also give yourself the grace to move forward and forgive yourself and just to keep going.
Yep. Mine would have been, I wish I wish BariNation existed when I was pre-op. So I could have joined and become a member, and I would have been supported in a monumentally different way than what I was. But to have made connections and to have tapped into a community and to know that I had a safe place to go to ask all my questions and celebrate my wins and, practice, just get a view of the journey of the road that was ahead would have been so very, very monumentally helpful. So that would have been the one thing.
I think this last question that I kind of picked up on was someone who was asking about how you basically stay informed on like eating the right foods, exercising, and this specific question was geared for the crowd of 60 or over. And I think it just kind of comes back to what you just said. I don't think there's like a one size fits all answer to that. I think reaching out for support in the different ways, but also community and like these type of things, the support groups and things like that, just learning. And if there's a specific topic that you're like mostly interested in, if it's something nutrition prep or mindset or exercise or physical activity, you know, find an episode on that, watch that, or talk to a professional that might be able to help you. Do you guys have anything to say on that further?
I would, yeah, actually, we're shocked, we know. In BariNation, we have a peer-led meetup, and it happens twice a month, and it is just for our members that are 50 years and older, because we understand that is, you are in a different chapter of life, and the support and the guidance and the connection that you're looking for is maybe different than the most active, group of bariatric patients that you see on social media. But a vast majority of our members are in that 45 to 65-year-old category. These are active professionals, they're grandparents, right? These are just people that are really excited about their bariatric life, and they want to onboard all of the resources. As patients, we know how frustrating it is. You just want, like, just tell me what to do, right? Just give me a list, just tell me what to do. But that doesn't exist when it comes to your bariatric journey. We have a checklist in BariNation. It's called the Bari Good Day Checklist. And there are 11 things that are taken from the ASMBS guidelines and the MISQUIP guidelines. And it says, these are the things that post-op patients need to do. No time frame. These are the things. So we absolutely have a list. We know what we need to do. But what we're really looking for is, we want to know, how do I do those things in a way that makes sense for me in my life? And I can't tell you that exactly. Nat can't tell you that exactly. What we can do is create a space for you to go and learn from other people, to see how other people are living that checklist in their life, so that you can, again, build your own recipe. Take an ingredient from Brenda, from myself, from Natalie, from Jason, from any one of our community members, and put it into your recipe, put it into your equation, and try it out. Does it work? Does it taste good? Do a chef's taste. That's what we're talking about when we say, right, you really have to experiment. You have to play, because you're going to find that magic formula that worked for you. And you probably found something that worked for the first year, but you're here today, or you're wondering, why has it stopped working? Well, it stopped working because your life has changed. The disease has progressed. You've healed. You can eat more. You're in a different space. You have a wider perspective, right? Life continues to life. So that means that you need to keep lifing with it. So that means that how you choose to live your best bariatric life is going to look different, even though the goal is the same. My goal is still 80 grams of protein. My goal is still 80 ounces of water. But how am I going to accomplish that goal today with my life as it's situated in this moment? So we all want that, do this, this is what you need, magic pill, magic list. No, the magic is you showing up for yourself every single day and doing the work of weight loss surgery. And we encourage you to do it in community, because that's where we've found the greatest level of success in our own personal patient lives.
And I would just like to add, I know we're coming up on time, but I did want to add, in reference to, like, how do you find the information? Like, what do you even do to find out what I should be eating? Always seek out a dietitian. We have dietitians that work in BariNation that lead groups, but they are not your dietitian. So please reach out to your dietitians. But something that's helped me is following dietitians, following people that know what they're talking about on social media, Instagram, TikTok, within BariNation. And the last thing is research. What, I was just telling April, I'm really into like the gut biome and eating for a healthy gut. So I've just been researching, looking up what are some healthy gut biome meals or whole food meals that I can eat that support me. And like we've been saying the whole time, just become a scientist, do your research. It is exhausting. I'm not going to say it's not. It is very exhausting. But it's really worth it. And I'm finally at a point 3.5 years post-op where I feel like I know somewhat how to eat to support my wellness and my own personal gut biome. April's working on figuring out hers. So, do your research, be diligent, and you'll figure it out, but it takes research and experimenting to find it.
Yeah. How about closing thoughts, girls?
Ooh, hang in there.
Yeah. It's worth it. All of the days that are hard, that you feel like you're trudging through, all the days that you feel like I just don't want to do it anymore, allow yourself those feelings, allow yourself those days, allow yourself those moments. But always do one thing. On your worst day, what's the one thing that you can do that helps you stay aligned to your bariatric life and to your bariatric goals? Because the next day ahead could be a day that is filled with motivation and willpower and energy. And on those days, you lean in hard to those days and you maximize them as much as you can. But on the days that are hard, just know that it's okay. And it can be scary at 1 year post-op when everything changes again. But just know that is a stop along the journey. That is a part of this adventure that we are all on together. You are doing the right thing. You are treating the disease of obesity. You have onboarded the most effective long-term treatment for obesity, and it's never going away. It can't be taken away from you. It's okay to struggle. There was that quote, there is no change without challenge, right? Yeah, it's just a part of the journey.
Yeah.
In,
And
in order to, yeah, in order to want to change, you have to have something that kind of happens. The whole thing about wanting to change is to have something you don't want. So you've identified something you do want. And sorry, Natalie,
Yes.
go right ahead.
no,
You're
I
going to
was
add.
just Yeah, I was just going to add, bariatric surgery is the number one treatment for obesity. It is not a cure by any means, but we have spoken with so many surgeons who say this is the number one treatment. So if you're watching this today, you've had bariatric surgery, take solace in knowing that you've taken the step, but it doesn't mean that you're treatment is going to end, like April said, and we just have to be willing to keep going and figuring out the best treatment plan for us. And that may change every single year, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So girls, let's go into how they can contact you, how they can get a hold of BariNation, all of that. And um, as we mentioned before, BariNation does have a partnership with ProCare. So I was going to show them how to link to that. Is that okay? Or did you?
Yeah.
And I also have,
Awesome.
I'm going to go ahead and share before I kind of share my screen, how to find BariNation. BariNation is also an affiliate, which means you receive a discount. If you are ordering any of ProCare products, you receive a discount by using BariNation code, which is pretty incredible. So I'm going to
It's amazing.
post those two things here real quick, and then I'm going to post your partnership And I need to do that on both Facebook and here. So it's going to be kind of a long little, if you're listening to the replay, guys, this will all be into the replay information. So no worries on that.
Oh, you did it
We
all for, I was putting stuff in the chat. Thanks, Brenda.
Yes, I'm all prepared.
I just want to say we really do love ProCare products. April, Jason, and I struggled finding vitamins that worked for us, worked for our lifestyles, our budgets, all of that. And we've been consistently using ProCare for 3 years at this point. So I sometimes I know it's a little hard to figure out who's, truly using it. But we are, and we love ProCare. We love working with ProCare and Brenda and Nick. So I just wanted to shout you guys out because we love you all.
Oh,
Yep.
thank you. We feel the same way.
Yep. ProCare's been in our corner from the very beginning. If you are, I believe if you subscribe to ProCare, so if you have put your vitamins on like a set it and forget it subscription, you actually get a discounted membership rate into our community. So if you are a subscriber to ProCare and you're interested in joining BariNation, I highly recommend you check out that opportunity. You can email us at hello@BariNation, or I think there's information on the ProCare website as well. But we would love to welcome you into our community if you are excited to onboard weekly support, something, or even daily support if that's what you need. It's a place that we have all relied on along our bariatric journey, and we would be thrilled to support you there as well.
So I'm going to jump on real quick, girls, and I'm going to show them if you're listening only, like if you're listening to the audio only, I'll kind of navigate and kind of talk about how to find some of the things that you guys are talking about. So if I go to the ProCare Health website, which is procarenow.com, and at the top is a little ProCare menu, and it starts over here with products, procedures, our Body and Soul campaign, and Very Connected. So Very Connected is our podcast. Under that tab, you're going to find Very Connected, which will have all of our episodes from this month and ongoing. So as soon as we hit July, it'll kind of switch over to July. This episode will be available on demand until the end of the month. And also we have a YouTube channel as BariNation as well. And we'll kind of share what those look like. But under that tab is another little tab that says partner programs. And BariNation is listed under that. And when you click onto that, I actually have it open up here in another tab. BariNation has kind of talks about what all they have, and they have a membership that you can join. So you can, if you're a ProCare patient, you can get a trial period and also a 90-day savings bundle. Do you guys want to say anything about that, or do you want me to explain that better?
I think it's awesome. You really save quite a bit of money by subscribing to ProCare vitamins, and then you're going to save about $120 a year on your BariNation membership if you would like to, do that entire bundle together. It's just an amazing way to really commit to your bariatric life and ensure that you are staying focused even on the days that maybe you don't feel like staying focused necessarily. So we're just so thankful that we're able to bundle our community with ProCare's amazing products, because both of those things truly make an amazing difference in patients' lives.
So we have that. And then I'm also going to kind of jump on your YouTube, and then also, so you have a YouTube channel just as ProCare has one. We actually, instead of it being called Very Connected, it's just ProCare Health Vitamins and Supplements. And I know we have about 300 videos, and you have a lot of videos on there too, like over 200. It looks like 232 videos. So lots and lots of great topics, and some of those we mentioned today. So that's a great way to access a lot of these, as alongside on your BariNation website, which is just BariNation.com. You actually have a link to your podcast and joining the community there as well.
Yes. Yep. We love to connect with people anywhere that they like to connect with us. So feel free, visit us online, visit us on Instagram. You can email us at hello@BariNation.com. You can also send us a direct message on Instagram. We are Bari.Nation. And you can also reach out to Natalie, myself, or Jason too privately on Instagram on that platform if you would like to as well. But definitely know it's only humans behind everything that we do here at BariNation. So know that if you email, if you reach out, it will be myself, Natalie, or Jason behind the response that you get.
And your team, like these girls, I can't say enough. I was just earlier how much they do. It is very, you guys have a lot of people that help you, but you do a lot of the main thing. So they're definitely on your side and your proponent of helping you through this journey. And so I just want to say thank you guys. And I want to thank everybody that joined this call. We do actually have quite a few BariNation people on here, which we love
Yeah.
that they've joined. That's amazing and awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And all of you others too as well. So thank you. And you too. Thank you, everybody. Just have a great day and enjoy your journey wherever you are, whether you're pre-op, a week post-op, a month post-op, a year, 2 years, 7 years. How far are you guys out?
I'll be 5
Again, I
this
know you
summer.
mentioned earlier. 5, Natalie,
I'm 3.5
and I
years.
am, I think, 11. So yeah, regardless of where you are.
Look at you, Brenda.
Yes, I'm a little ways out there now.
Mm-hmm.
And still engaged. Like these things help me as much as they help anybody else. So
Oh, yeah.
that's
Yep. Nope. The
amazing.
support never
Yeah.
ends.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
thank you, Brenda.
Thank you
Thank you so much for
all.
having us. We love joining you. We appreciate you, appreciate ProCare, and just a huge shout out and thank you to everybody who joined us live and everybody who watched this replay. We are so thankful that you are committed to living your best bariatric life right alongside us.
Yes, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.